had tipped Washington Examiner this from the victim herself. She was on Newsmax, I believe, earlier this week as well, giving some interviews. But she says 5 years ago, I was violently attacked and sexually assaulted in broad daylight in Washington, D.C. by a homeless man. He served time in federal prison for what he did to me. But if you look for evidence that the attack happened in the city's crime statistics, you won't find it. The truth of what happened to me, she writes, and the D.C. government's role in it as much a public scandal as it is a personal trauma. D.C. police covered up the unspeakable wrong that the stranger did to me. Now, guys, I back the blue. If you're listening to the Larry Elder Show, I know you back the blue. You do have to understand that there are some cities, especially like Washington, D.C., which is a district, but you understand what I'm saying, that are just straight up blue, that are straight up commie, where even some of the police departments are woke. And I believe that's the case in Washington, D.C. We'll talk about AG Pam Bundy taking authority away from the police chief in D.C., which I think needed to happen. Anna Giratelli goes on to write, even though a judge sentenced my attacker to hard time in prison in D.C., D.C. police leadership, would rather deceive the public and appear less dangerous than list mine and countless other sexual assaults on their website. And I want to dive into this. Guys, I think this is extremely important. What the left wants to do is constantly, I'm looking at this Trump and Putin meeting. I was listening to some of the left-wing rags, even on the way here. President Trump, he's going to be duped by this guy. He's got a fondness towards Vladimir Putin. He could be easily duped. If it wasn't that, it was the Epstein thing. Whatever they can to try to distort the facts or have you focus on President Trump instead of focus on them. This is going to backfire, I believe. I think we're watching something. Actually, we're living through history. I know that. But I think we're watching something that I think is unprecedented. I really do believe, you know how they say, and this is true. This is history. This is a fact. Typically, the party that's in power does bad in the midterms. There is such, I don't know if it's Trump derangement syndrome, just a hatred for the man, a desperation to get back in power by the radical left. They're willing to say or do anything. But the problem is these people are not likable. We've gotten a taste of their policies, and we just don't like it. Americans don't like it. They're still waking up. Some people aren't paying as much attention to politics. Some people are paying very close attention to politics. And I would argue that some of the people that are starting to wake up are the people that are happy they left the Democrat Party, and others that are thinking maybe it is time to leave the Democrat Party. This lady goes on to write, Anna Giratelli writes that the extent of crime in D.C. has been debated by the left and the right since Trump announced that he would take federal action to crack down on problems in the District of Columbia. But she says, but if the public wants to have an honest conversation about crime in D.C., the Metropolitan Police Department will first have to be honest about how prevalent crime is. Guys, whatever you've read this week, I want you to understand that it's even worse than that. Anna Giratelli of the Washington Examiner breaks it down. Without MPD's honesty about the crimes that it has chosen to hide from its public-facing stats page, she writes, the White House cannot get an accurate picture of how bad the problem actually is and how to adequately fix it. She says she lived in Washington, or she was a Washingtonian, for 7 years. She planned to stay there for decades before this happened to her. D.C.'s crime problem was something you lived with, she says. Think about that. Think about that. It's something you live with. I've heard the left say, oh, you know what? I don't know why they're talking about D.C. Actually, I do know why they're talking about D.C. It's because there's a lot of black folk there. It's a lot of black folk in D.C. And all the cities that Trump is paying attention to happen to have a lot of black folk there. I'm like scratching my bald head. Okay, that's good. Because obviously the left isn't paying attention to the black folk in their cities. It's amazing to me. It's actually an indictment, it's a self-indictment on themselves. It's the craziest thing ever. These people don't realize what they're saying. They don't realize what they're doing. And as a result of it, I think more and more people are waking up. You even had Chris Matthews, MSNBC. You remember the guy that got a thrill up his legs when Barack Obama was running for the White House. Now he's saying, wait a minute, guys, this is a trap. Mika Brzezinski saying the same thing. This is a trap. Democrats, you guys better be careful. You better be careful. You're defending the indefensible. And that's what the left is going to continue to do. Donald Trump is a racist. Why? Because he wants to stop crime in predominantly black or minority neighborhoods. Let that sink in. That's what the Democrats are currently fighting against. The people that claim to be for the downtrodden, the people that claim to be for the colored folk. They're not standing up for those people. They're fighting against those very people.
For full shows, live and on demand, it's Salem News Channel.